What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What Studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next party, at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Make your next thing a big one. Today on the program, the excitement builds. I have Donny Hammonds on the program today. Yes, Donny Hammonds. Yeah. Oh, you know who he is. What? You don't know a lot about him. Well, you're going to get to know him in the next few minutes, so stick around. This week's shows, I will be at the Rab on Friday night, my usual Friday night gig, the Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam. Yes, I said karaoke. It's a little concert starring each and every one of you. They got a full bar, the kitchen's open, pool tables, pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool and possibly make some money while you're doing it, come on out to the Rab, Conway, Arkansas, 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the a.m. Friday night, always a good time. All right, that's enough intro. Let's get into it with Donny Hammonds. I got him on Skype, so if you're listening to the audio version, I encourage you to check out the video version at youtube.com/user/keysdan. Skyping Donny Hammonds now.
Now it should be adjusted area.
Look at that beautiful hunk of man right there in front of me.
There we are.
Specimen, a fine specimen.
Yeah.
All right, party people. Look, it's Donny Hammonds. Hey, what's up?
Hey, man. How's it going?
It's good. I'm Keys Dan, What Makes You Famous podcast. So good to have you here. You know, I've been listening to your music all day, just kind of preparing. You have a sound where, okay, look, people play music. You hear music all over the world, right? Well, your music, it looks like it changes with the times. How long have you been doing this? Because it looks, okay, if I listen on your YouTube, you progress. You know, you started playing, you know, maybe simply, and then you kind of progressed with the beats and stuff. Tell me how these changes have happened over the years. How long have you been doing this?
Well, that's good. I've actually been in the music business for 25 years. Yeah.
I mean, he's only
long time.
The tender age of 32. I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. I'm 47 now, so I started when I was around 19. So I started playing guitar. And I'll try to be brief. Sometimes I get long-winded, but
no,
I started
be long-winded.
Guitar.
Be long-winded. This is a podcast. Take your time.
Yeah. I started playing guitar when I was about 12 years old, and when I was 12. Back in the 80s, that's when the 80s hair bands and things like that were famous. And so everybody that I went to school with, I hung around with people that were older than me that were, you know, more 16, 17, and 18. So, you know, I started playing when I was 12, took a few guitar lessons and learned to do some things, and was able to join like my first band when I was about 14. Yeah, so I kind of got into it quick. I started off on guitar, and just, you know, as it went, you know, friends from school and stuff like that, we practiced in their dad's garage and stuff like that, and then worked our way to my bedroom. And had supportive parents that let me have a drum kit in the house. But as the years went on, like I said, I learned to play guitar, and then I moved in. You know, as I met different people, different musicians and stuff like that, I would find other friends that's like, man, we have this band, but we need a drummer. So I was like, I'll learn to play drums. So I learned to play drums and did some gigs with some bands and stuff like that. So that was from the time I was probably, like I said, 14 to I'd say 17, 18. And then I started getting into the thing of, you know, we were doing, you know, of course, that age we were doing cover music. So I was like, got in with some different people that wrote their music and had you know, back then CDs and cassettes out. So I was like, man, this is cool. How do you write your own music, or what do you do? And, you know, like I said, I looked at these people that were older and kind of, you know, as mentors and stuff. and got into writing stuff that was, and some of it I have to this day. I have it on little cassettes and stuff. And I look back and it's like, man, that was terrible. But, it was a growth process. I just looked at these people, how to write songs and did that. And then I thought, okay, well, how do I record songs? And they're like, well, you go to a recording studio, you save up a bunch of money. And so I was like, well, at this time I'm 18, 19 years old. I don't have a bunch of money for a recording studio, but what can I buy that I could do it at my house? So, and I went to school with friends that were, computer guys and recording guys and that knew how to hook up a lot of this stuff. So I enticed one of my friends and says, hey, why don't I buy the stuff and then to the minimum stuff that we need, and we'll start out in my bedroom and we'll use your brains and everything, and you show us how to do that. So anyway, I bought some recording gear and started just doing some of my own little demos and stuff. Like I said, by the time this was when I was 18, 19. And then started getting, pretty decent at it. I mean, at the age of stuff like that, it wasn't nothing that we would, put out these days. So it progressed. And after I graduated high school, I built my first house. So in my first house, when I built it, and I was thankful to do that, I built my first house when I was 19 years old. And so, I've been grinding since I was a kid. Yeah. So when I built this house, I says, okay, bedrooms and kitchens are not a necessity. I need those, but I need a room for a recording studio. So that's when I started. I had, I got a split foyer type house, and it had I built a bonus room downstairs. I said, man, this is perfect. So we came in, and I got friends to help me build it and stuff like that. So I did. So I started recording, bought some gear and stuff like that. So I did that for probably about a year. And then I was like, man, this is pretty cool. And then I started releasing this stuff. And this was back when like MySpace was still, MySpace was the hot thing. So I started putting, little videos of me in my studio on MySpace and putting out songs on cassettes. And my friends were like, man, where'd you record this? And I'm like, in my house. And they're like, well, I didn't know you had a recording studio. Can we come over and record? And I'm like, sure, man, I'll let you be some guinea pigs. And, I've never done anybody else but me. So anyway, kind of to make a long story short, so I did that for probably another year or two, and had all these people started coming and friends and, hey, Donnie's got a studio. Let's go hang out. So I got to thinking, I said, well, man, I could probably make some money at this, because I've been doing it for a year for free, and everybody's liking it. And as I go, I was learning and stuff. So, I just started, charging, and I called some different studios to find out what the rates were. And I was, I just kept my rates under that because, I was still kind of fresh and new at it. But then I just built my name up, and then I had the opportunity, after being in my basement or my bonus room for say probably 3 or 4 years, I had the opportunity, and I was growing, and I had all kind of random people in and out of my house, and I thought, well, maybe I don't need this now. Maybe it's time to move out. So I had the opportunity to rent a little storefront building. And so me and a friend of mine went in together, and the little building was only $500 a month. He's like, we'll split it. We'll do $250 a piece, and we'll have our own recording studio. We'll get business license, and everything was legit. So that was when, like I said, I was probably 2022 by then. And from then on, everything just snowballed, and the business grew. And then as I did this, I would meet other musicians and different caliber of musicians, and just started playing in a steady, solid band, doing, booking shows and doing shows. So I would do, I was 22, living my dream. I was getting to play music. I had a recording studio that everybody would come to, because when you're in your 20s, and, we had Atlanta, we had Nashville, but nobody had, even to this day, very few people have $1,000 or $1,500 to spend on a song. So, and I realized this, I thought, hey, if I got my rates and stuff really, really low or really, really cheap, then I could just do mass volume And then, you know, I'm 22, and I was working in, you know, I've skipped some steps of when I graduated. I got a day job and stuff like that. But I was in the car business. I didn't have all this hair back in the car business. I look like a representative young man, you know what I'm saying? But so I would do my shows on the weekends and stuff, play Friday and Saturday nights, and then, you know, during, you know, the car business was 9 to 5, and then after that, I would just go to my recording studio and have bands come in and out and stuff like that. And I'd make $7,500. I'm like, man, this is cool. I'm getting to work. And so I did that for about, probably, I'd say about 4 or 5 years. And then it got to a point to where with my shows, I started building up a big repertoire of songs, but also started, building a repertoire of venues, because I would do band stuff. But I would also, then I started having venues call in saying, hey, you know, we have acoustic nights, we have open mic nights on this day, and stuff like that. So I thought, well, cool, I'll come, I'll introduce myself to your venue, your restaurant, Mexican, you know, restaurants, pizza bars, whatever. And if you like it, then, you know, hey, we'll book a show. So anyway, so over a period of doing that for 3 or 4 years, I developed a thing where, you know, I was playing a couple of nights during the week, and then I was playing on the weekends, and then I had my recording studio, you know, just, you know, here and there filling out. So I'm like, man, I'm like doing a lot of stuff. And this went on for probably 5 or 6 years. And then as the years went on and time went on, I just developed relationships with different people, getting to meet different people, you know, bar owners, venue owners, you know, all these places. So one day I realized, you know, as I would go to, you know, I would do a show on Tuesday night and, you know, get home at 11 or 12 o'clock at night or something like that. I'm like, man, I gotta be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, so, and doing the grind. So I was still young, so I could do that. But then as time went on, I was playing 4 and 5 nights a week. And I realized, I was like, man, I really don't have time to work, you know, because, you know, I was making money, you know, making money for, you know, for what I was making about as much money for that 4 or 5 days of gigging that I had built into, you know, it built up, it taken me, you know, 5 years to build up to that. But I was making about as much money doing the gigs and my studio as I was my day job. But I would have never dreamt of saying, okay, I'm going to walk out of my job and I'm going to do music full time. So there was, it's probably been, I'm 47 now. So that was when I was 22, 23. So there was something that was, there was this little, you know, crisis that came along where the building industry went down, and it's kind of like the state we're in now, but this happened again, you know, this happened 20 years ago, something, you know, a little bit different, where the building industry went down, the car business and stuff like that went down, and everything was just kind of like a, you know, little minimal depression and stuff like that. So we weren't selling a bunch of cars. So I thought, I'm going to book more shows. I've got to grind, because I've always been motivated to make money and stuff like that. So I just started booking shows, and before I knew it, I had 3 months of shows booked out ahead of time and stuff like that. So I told my boss, I was like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I really don't have time to come back to work. You know, I said, I'm playing these bars, you know, till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm like trying to drag myself into work after doing this. And thankfully my boss was a musician as well. And he actually, I missed that point. He actually come into my recording studio and did some work and stuff like that. So we were just really good friends. And he's like, man, I'm proud of you. This is what I wanted to see. And that was in, I'm 47 now. That was probably, let me see, when I was, by then I was probably in my late 20s. And I left the car business then, and that's been, I'd say now it's been a little over 15 years. And I've been a full-time musician and a full-time recording studio owner for 15 years now.
Donny Hammonds, you have given me so much to unpack, man. I love that. That's, you know what that is? That's the Wikipedia blurb, like the top couple of paragraphs. And then I have to go through all the different pieces, you know, early life, your records, your songwriting, your relationships. Yeah, this is like your Wikipedia that you're building.
Yeah, and
but
that's what I'm trying to figure out, because I skip a lot of stuff and like miss stuff in between, because it's like, okay, I went from when I was 15, what happened here and here, so trying to fit it all in, but it all just kind of happened so fast. And like I said, when I was I think I was 20 when I put out my first album, because I did it here, so I didn't have to pay any studio fees and stuff. So I was 20 when I put out my first album, and now I'm up to I released 12 albums so far. So what I've started doing, instead of doing albums, and as the times changed, because back then we didn't have all the iTunes and Spotify, all the distribution stuff. So we would just sell, CDs and cassettes out of our cars, or,
No, we actually sold records and made money,
exactly,
instead of streaming and making no money. What?
Yeah. So probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was like, well, you know what I'm going to do? Instead of like waiting till I have 10 songs ready to go, because I usually put 10 songs in an album. And the reason I did that is just, other than being like OCD, is when we would do the cassettes, we would put 5 songs on one side, 5 songs on the other. So I just always did 10 songs on an album. That was just my thing. So about 2 years ago, I was like, well, I'm just going to, write songs and release singles. And that's what I've been doing for 2 years. So as of to date, I've released 12 albums, which had 10 songs, and I've released probably, I would say right at probably close to 100 singles. So I have, I'm up to probably around whatever 10 times 12, that's 120. So, about 220, original songs that, I've written over the past, 15 years, as well as working with others, and Tony Black, that actually got us hooked up. We met, guess maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I've produced and recorded, I want to say about 45 of his songs.
I mean, I give credit where credit is due. Thanks Tony Black for bringing us together. I appreciate that. I know that I see on my feed 1, 2, 3 songs a day coming from that man, but I think that you're challenging him. Has he become kind of a not only a collaborator, but also maybe somebody to compete with? Because you have hundreds of songs already produced yourself, and that you've written as well.
So when me and him first met, we met through another client of mine, and he was looking for somebody to do music, and somebody referred me, and they said, hey, you need to get with Donny. He can write music to your songs. He can put, do whatever he can, record them. He does. And through the years, I learned to play, like I said, guitar and drums. And then I learned to play like bass and piano, mandolin, and different things, because as my studio grew, I would have different people come in, and they says, hey, I need a bass player. I need a drummer. And I'm like, well, man, if I could do all this stuff, and I would find out how Nashville operated, and I found out that they paid a drummer, they paid a bass player, if you've got 6 guys playing, every one of those had to pay, and whether it's $50 or $100 a man. But I would work with, here in Cartersville, Georgia, where I'm at, where I live. It's not a lot of people that has, $1,000 to put into a song. So I was thinking, okay, if I can learn to play all these instruments satisfactory, to these people that would satisfy them and get what they need out of it. And if Nashville charges $1,000 a song, if I was really, really crazy and just wanted to do a lot of volume, I would do, maybe a couple of $100 a song, and I would play everything, and then I would produce it, record it, mix it, master it, give them their song. And like I said, and I started doing that, and then the volume, I stay behind, thankfully, tons of business, and I'm very thankful for, because of the rates. And that's enabled me to, over the past couple of years, especially with and I hate to say because of COVID or whatever, but when that's one thing, I was actually busier during COVID than I've ever been in my life, because what happened is musicians that were always working, they says, man, I want to come to the studio, but I work all the time. Okay. They called me and they says, hey, I'm off for the next 2 months, and I'm either getting like some kind of severance pay. I'm doing this. My studio stayed slammed. I mean, 7 days a week, and the volume was just, you know, overwhelming and stuff. And I was very thankful for that. So I didn't, you know, thankfully I didn't get a breather during COVID and stuff like that. But back to where, and I skip around a lot and I try not to, but so Tony contacted me, or I can't remember if I contacted him or somebody hooked us up. It was actually a guy named John Kinsey. John Kinsey was one of my clients, and he said, "Hey, you need to get with Donny." So me and Tony started talking, and Tony's like, "Man, I have a notebook full of songs. I just need music put to them." He's like, "I write lyrics, just, you know, coming and going, but I don't have any music." So I was like, "Well, let's do this. Send me one. Let's start with that, and then you can see what I'm capable of, and then you can make your decision if you want to work at my studio." So I did one, and he was blown away. He was like, "Wow, one person did that." So that's been, like I said, 2 years ago, when we have about 40, I think it was 43 or 45 songs done. But over this 2 years, instead of being just like a client, "Hey, send me your songs, I'll do it, you pay me, you know, yada, yada, yada," we became friends and collaborators. So now he's like, "Man, I've got this song," and he'll send it to me, and he's chucking them out as fast as I can record them. Because one thing that he did with Blackstone Promotions is, you know, I would sing the demos, but he would meet other artists, and thankfully we along the way, he and I both met Niecy Howard from Country Roads Records, which just passed. She passed away, I'd say about maybe 3 or 4 months ago. But what she would do, she would bring artists in that didn't have the funds, didn't have the money to go to Nashville stuff. And basically she found out about me and says, "Hey, I have this, you know, roster of like 25 artists that do these home recordings. Will you take a listen to them and see what you can do?" Some of them sounded good. Some of them was like, "Yeah, that's not going to go on radio," and stuff like that. And she said, "Well, they can't afford to go to Nashville, and, you know, yada, yada, yada." She said, "What could you do to help them so I could get them some radio-ready material and, you know, send them out to, you know, people like your podcast and different internet radio stations?" And I said, "Well, you know, what is their budget?" Because I've been blessed along the way. So I was like, "Man, this is a time to turn around and sow some seeds and get help." She said, "You know, well, you know, one place they're paying like $200 a song." And she said, "But they can only do like maybe one song every couple of months or something like that. They do one save up." I says, "Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb right here." I said, I'll do, and this was unheard of. And I've worked in Nashville and recorded up at RCA. And I was talking to some of the different engineers, and they, without telling me how stupid I was, they're like, "Really?" So I told Niecy Howard with Country Roads Records, I said, "If you will get me volume," I said, I will record, mix, master. I said, I'll do, you know, drums, guitar, bass, piano, mandolin, whatever needs to be done on this song that I feel to make it radio ready. I said, I'll do $100 a song. And she was like, "Oh my God." She's like, that's unheard of. And I said, "Exactly." And then even, you know, my producer friends and you know, the Nashville guys are like, "Dude, we can't even have a guitar player come in and play on a track for $100." But I'm like, okay, I'm living my dream. I'm not a gritty guy. I'm thankful to get to do music for a living. And, you know, I play, and by this time, like I said, this was a couple years ago. And by this time I was already playing shows 5 to 6 nights a week. I was doing about 250 shows a year and still do. And I'm trying to cover all the bases without skipping all around. If that way, if people try to keep up, they're like, "This guy's everywhere." Like, "Look, there's a squirrel," you know.
Oh, no. I'm enjoying this. I really am. And if I'm enjoying it, other people are going to enjoy it as well. So Donny Hammonds, you keep going. Like
so much information that I'm trying to get it all out and make it make sense. And, you know, and a lot of it's not like, you know, going with the timeline, but so if I skip around and you're like, "Wait a minute, you left out a blank of a period of 2 years there. What happened?" But anyway, so with Niecy Howard, I said, I'll do $100 a song. So I said, "Send me your first artist." So I've done so many I think maybe the first artist was a guy named Rick Snyder. I don't know if you've played any of his stuff. so what he did, he was in, I think, like Newfoundland or New Brunswick, Canada. So she said, this guy's in Canada. She says, how is this going to work? He's in Canada and you're, thousands of miles away in Georgia. I said, tell him to send me a video on like Facebook Messenger on his phone of him playing and singing his guitar. So this guy sings and plays guitar. I said, tell him to send me a video of him playing and singing the song, and I'll take it from there. That way I know the lyrics and then I know the melody. And then if he has any ideas he wants, and what I do is I would have him, instead of me taking a shot in the dark and trying to just do what I wanted to do, what I would hear, I told him, and this was the first client I had of hers. So I'm like, okay, this has got to be great. I've got to hook these guys. I got to get this business. And even though it's $100 a song, if I do it correct and do it right, I'm going to get volume, which is going to make money in the long run. Mm-hmm. So I said, have him send me his song, but also send me a reference song, whether he wants this song to sound like Jason Aldean or if he wants to sound country, rock, pop. Give me something that he likes the beat of, the tempo, and I'm going to take that and I'll run with it. Anyway, so I did this first song. Niecy Howard was blown away. Rick Snyder, the artist, he was like, wow. He's like, how did you do that with my little video? So then he was like,
how did you do that with his little video? Did you play all the instruments? Is that what you did?
Yeah. So what I did is I just used the acoustic guitar track and the vocal track, or the vocals that he sent me, and I just kind of charted it out so I'd know the melody and the layout. And then but what I would do is I would do it instead of like saying, I'm going to do this song and I'm going to send you back basically a karaoke track of your song. I would do like Facebook Live videos and say, hey, I'm in the Afterdark Studio. My studio is called the Afterdark Studio. Mm-hmm. We're working on a song by Rick Snyder. Today we're laying bass guitar. And I would send him little clips and say, hey, do you like where I'm going? And he's like, man, that's fantastic. So when I got done with the track, there was two options. He says, okay, I want to be the vocalist on my song. I don't want you to do it for a demo. I want to be the vocalist. So I said, well, there's two ways you can do it. I said, if you've got a studio up there, and he did have a studio in Canada, but at this time, like I said, a lot of artists can't afford to go spend, $500 or $1,000 a song to do it. So he's like, basically these artists, that's why we came to you. I said, well, you can either go like try to rent the studio for like an hour, just ask till you do a vocal track, or you can go and this is something, it's a fine line depending on, the quality of phones, but a lot of phones have like really, really good voice memo recorders. Mm-hmm. So I said, let's do this and see how it works. So I said, I'm going to send you a track back. And I said, you go into a closet or somewhere quiet and you just sing your vocals into your phone, into your voice memo, and send me those back. And he was like, huh? How is that going to work? I said, just send me the vocals back. And then I said, I'll import those into Pro Tools and I'll do all the little magic and all the stuff like that. And we did that. And I sent him a track back and they couldn't believe that they done, was able to do that with me in Georgia and him in Canada. So then his song, I sent it back, and then she got it on a lot of different internet radio stations, one being like Phil Krantz, the Black Dog Morning Show was a big supporter of that. And there was Ronnie Trash with Country Beats Radio. So they started playing this song. People was like, man, that's kind of like got this fresh, because as you were talking about, like my music, if you go back and listen to the album, that I first recorded when I was 19, and the stuff that I do now, and that's when I got into the recording part of it, working with different people. I would work with rock bands. I would work with country bands. I would work with gospel bands. So when people came in, there's like, what kind of music do you record? And so at first I said, good music. They're like, huh? No, like what genres? And so, as a young guy, I started out doing like the hair bands and stuff like that, the 80s rock. But then I got into the country scene and I was like, man, there's a huge market for the country scene. And I learned to play some of the stuff like that and learn to produce, because you can't record and mix everything, a country band, like you would do an 80s hair band or something. You know what I mean?
No, I really don't know what you mean. It sounds like you have all the skills. I don't know what you mean, but go ahead, continue.
So it'd be the difference between, Eddie Van Halen coming in and recording and say, I don't know, Brad Paisley or somebody that's got two different styles.
Mhm.
So if I'm over here trying to crank a guitar amp with this guy over here shredding, it's not going to sound right if I mix it like I would this country guy. You know what I mean? You learn different techniques. And then I started getting into like the rap, hip hop, and R&B. So people would come to me and they're like, okay, you're this rocker guy. Do you know how to mix R&B and rap? I was like, no, but I'm going to learn because it's money. You know what I mean? Yeah. The more genres I can make, you know, or learn, the more money I can make. You know what I mean? I'm in this. I love music. Music's my passion, and I'm making money at it. So the more that I can learn and the broader that I can be, the more money I'm going to make. I mean, it's
I don't know which one I was listening to. Whether I think it was Chasing Down a Memory that has that hip hop beat.
It does. Yeah. When Tony presented that one to me, he says, okay, because he'll do that. He says, okay, I've got this song that sounds like, you know, Rat from the 80s, or I've got this song that sounds like Garth Brooks. So when he came to me with that one, he says, I want this to kind of sound like a Brian McKnight, kind of a poppy R&B. And I was like, I'm a metal guy, but I don't know. I'll give it a shot. And I ended up producing the music and doing the vocals. And after I did the vocals on it, I was like, man, that's kind of cool. I kind of dig that. You know what I mean? So I like, you know, these artists kind of challenging me and getting me out of my comfort zone and doing things that I, you know, even though when I released that song, when I put it out, when Tony and I put it out, people was like, I thought you were like a metalhead. You know, I thought you were a rocker. And they're like, this is a different side. And I'm like, well, do you like it or do you not like it? They're like, well, it's different. We're trying to get used to it. And it opened up a door to a whole different audience and stuff like that, because, and that's one thing that would as good as far as doing singles, because I couldn't put that single on a rock album, you know what I mean? Because it just wouldn't fit. So now that we can market and, you know, promote songs as singles, as like, you know, they're like babies. These are our children. You know, we can take care of them one by one and market them in different places and get more exposure. So, you know, if I ever got a call to, you know, for a record deal, somebody says, hey, do you want to be a rock guy? Do you want to be a country guy? Do you want to be a pop guy? I'm like, just show me the money. You know what I mean? It's like, you know.
Well, and, you know, you say you have all these genres. I don't think you're a metalhead or a hip hop guy. I think you're a musician. You know, plain and simple.
And that's one thing that I've learned to respect and have learned to grow as people come in and they're like, hey, we're a rock band or we're this band. And I understand, you know, they have to have different things. And that's one good thing. And that's actually one thing that's helped me book as many shows, like as of just like, for instance, I mean, probably the last 3 or 4 years, I've played anywhere between 200 and 250 shows a year for the last 3 or 4 years. And this is what March said. This is the beginning of March. And I already have right at 180 shows booked. So as it stands now, I am actually full for the whole year. I mean, I could book more shows, but I'm like, I've been staying so busy with my studio, and then, you know, and I'm married as well. So I was like, you know, I need some time at home with my wife and stuff. She's very supportive over this stuff. And, the recording studio has grown tremendously over the last, I mean, every year it grows, but over the last 3 years, it's just sprouted up. And now I have guys from Nashville coming. I'm about 3.5 hours from Nashville. So these guys found out, hey, it's $1,000 or $1,500 a song per se to go to Nashville and record. But these guys living in Nashville know that. So they can come to my studio and rent my studio for about $300 a day. And they come in and knock out a song. They just did a song for $300 instead of $1,000 or $1,500. So I have these guys coming. So what they do, like for instance, today.
But here, for example, they're not just getting the studio, because they're also getting the engineer, and they're also getting whatever musician that they might be lacking. You have just because it's a cut rate price doesn't mean it's going to be a cut rate song or you know, you're not sacrificing value.
Exactly. That's one thing that because when they first came down, a lot of them didn't know what to expect. And when they came down and saw the studio, they're like, wow, this is like legit. You know what I mean? And I even furnish, drums. I have a really nice high-end set of studio drums. I have about 25 different guitars, amps and stuff. So a lot of these guys, when they come down, they don't even have to bring anything. They're like, okay, our drummer doesn't even have to bring drums. I have a, top of the line, what they call a DW, set. And I have all this stuff. So like, for instance, like last Monday. So when they come down, they're like, okay, we come to you because we can get really good quality at super discounted rates, but we also have to pay, for a hotel while we're here. So we try to get as much done as we can. So for instance, like I think it was last Monday and Tuesday, Monday, I had a 15-hour day. And that's yeah. As much as we love love music, we were like zombies because we worked 15 hours and we only took an hour lunch break.
Wow.
But yeah. So, but they come in and grind and stuff like that and get stuff done. And I'm very fortunate because, and I'll give a shout, and I want to give a shout out to a few people because, like I said, there's a few people that have made this possible for me to kind of break into the Nashville people coming down. So, there's a band called Them Dirty Roses. And so the guitar player, Andrew Davis, I've been working with him, and he's been working in my studio for, I'd say probably close to a year now, 8 or 9 months or something like that. But they get out. They've recorded in Nashville. They're based out of Nashville, but they've recorded up in Nashville. They recorded it up in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and they would talk to me and tell me, man, we spent $3,500, recording this song. And I'm like, wow. So he comes in and he has all these connections. So he brought this other fantastic artist, a guy named Nick Gibson. I have to give a shout out to Nick Gibson because this guy is just the real deal. So Nick comes in and he's doing some guitar work on another guy's album or another guy's single. So I noticed on this, he had a backpack with him that had like these all access passes on there. So I'm trying not to be nosy and seeing what they are. I'm like, man, are these people that he knows or that he's seen in concert? And so come to find out, he's like, no, these are people that I've played with. And it was like Lauren Elena, Luke Combs. And I'm like, dude, Luke Combs is like, big time. You know what I mean? Luke Combs is huge. And then I go on his Facebook and there's a picture, this Nick Gibson's Facebook, and there's a picture of him playing at Madison Square Gardens. And I'm like, okay, I'm jelly now. I'm like, that's one of these dreams, So I'm working with this caliber of people, and I'm like, I came to the realization. I'm like, man, my little studio that started in my basement, or it's just like, it's like a legit studio. You know what I mean? I've got these people from Nashville coming, and I've been blessed and stuff, and so I'll go back to about 2 years ago. I had another client of mine, and these people start out as clients, but as the albums go on and time goes on, they become friends. So I had this guy named David Garrett Arnold. He came in and says, hey, I heard about your studio. And in all my studio, I don't do a lot of advertising. Other than like Facebook stuff, but everything that I do, 95% of my business comes from word of mouth. And people see my Google reviews and see my studio reviews, and I bend over backwards to do whatever I can to make people comfortable. I mean, I even have a snack bar that people come in so they don't have to go pay for food. And I tell my wife, I was like, I probably spend more money on snacks and drinks than I do at the session because, I want everybody to be comfortable and, feel at home and it be a cozy place. But anyway, so David Garrett Arnold said, I heard about your studio. I want to come in and do like a 12-song album. I'm like, wow, that's a big project. So he said, I understand that you play things and I may get you to play some instruments and stuff like that, but I'm going to bring in my band or some guys that I've assembled that are studio musicians, and I want them to play on it. So I'm like, okay, great. So anyway, we schedule the session, and then the drummer comes and is getting his stuff set up and doing some range and getting everything set. And I was like, and he starts banging on the drums, and I can tell when people start to play, the status of, whatever is like, man, they're they're beginning or are they this going to be good or like, wow, they're fantastic. So anyway, so this guy starts playing the drums and I look at David and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is a fantastic drummer. So he looks at me and he's like, you don't know Jan Rico. This guy's name was Jan Rico Scott. He says, you don't know Jan Rico? And he's like, how long have you been in the Atlanta area? And I'm like, well, a long time. But anyway, so he said, well, pull him up on Wikipedia real quick. So I pull this guy up on Wikipedia, and his profile picture is him holding a Grammy. And I'm like, okay. So underneath it, it's like the Derek Trucks Band, Stevie Wonder, Eric Clapton. And I'm like, this guy's played with like Eric Clapton, Stevie Wonder. He's like, so, and I was like, he's in my little humble studio. So I go in there and, I introduce myself and I'm like, hey, Donnie, I'm the engineer. And I was like, but I didn't realize who you were. So if you want to kind of like guide me and give me some advice on what you've done over the years. He said, no, dude. He said, I am in your place. He says, you do your thing. And I said, no, dude, I was like, if you've played with Eric Clapton and Stevie Wonder, I want to learn. You know what I mean? I'm all ears and stuff like that. And he said, well, you do your thing. And if I see something that I can throw in some input, I will. And I'm like, so I was kind of nervous, you know what I mean? Because here's little old me working with this guy that's, played with Stevie Wonder and Eric Clapton and the Derek Trucks Band and stuff like that. So I says, is there any kind of contracts or anything that will keep me from just like blowing up my Facebook? Because I'm fixing to go on Facebook and, put you all over the place. And he says, well, because at this time he was playing with the Derek Trucks Band. I don't know if you're familiar with the Derek Trucks Band.
I will
Derek
be.
Trucks, yeah, him and his wife have a band called Tedeschi and Trucks, and they're like a blues thing. Actually, his Derek Trucks, I think it was his. And don't quote me because these people that know, I don't know if it was his dad, Butch Trucks, or one that played with the Allman Brothers. But anyway, so this guy's been in the music thing. So if you know, then so he said no, but he said make sure if you post my picture, because he said I'm currently playing with Derek Trucks, make sure you put from the Derek Trucks Band so he gets the notoriety. Anyway, so I post this video. Hey, I've got Jan Rico Scott in my studio today, and it wasn't about 15 minutes later, dude, my phone started blowing up, and everybody's posting on my Facebook, oh my God, do you know who that is? And I'm like, well, I do now. And because see, I never got, really much into like the, and musicians don't criticize me or whatever, but as far as like the jam bands and, the Allman Brothers and stuff that do the 8-minute, 10-minute jam songs. I mean, a lot of that's cool. But I just never got into it when I was young, but I do now. But I just didn't realize who he was. So all my friends and older peers and stuff like that knew who he was are like, oh my God, dude, how'd you get this guy in there? Can we come to the studio? And I'm like, well, it's a private session today. You know what I mean? It's like, they're like, come on, dude.
Now you have to open up a window. I was looking at pictures of your After Dark studio. The thing's legit. And now you got to open up a little paparazzi window that people can just kind of open up, take a picture, come back. Close
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like I said, and as the years went on, I just, I met different people, and, I'm waiting for that day when I could like, some big megastar says, okay, we're going to go record at Donnie's studio and like literally put me on the map. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've been in business with a studio now for 25 years. But as far as getting, hey, this album by Garth Brooks or so-and-so was recorded at the Afterdark, I hadn't made that yet, but I've had the, and meetings and meeting people, like I've had the pleasure to I've done a few shows up in Nashville with some members of George Jones and Tammy Wynette's band. I got to sit in with them. I got to do some stuff with I got to sit in and do some songs with one of Merle Haggard's sons, Scott Haggard. And then so last week I had this company come out. I was wanting to do some acoustic treatment to my studio and always trying to do things better. So I set up an appointment with this company, and this guy came out and he was looking and he was like, man, this is cool. It's a cool little studio because it's small.
Yeah,
And
but
so he
it's
starts
got
talking.
you didn't spare any expenses. You got wood all over the place. The console looks mighty fine. I mean, it looks legit, man. You got glass between you and the band. It looks like a really good studio. This is the kind of, I mean, like I go to Sun Records and I go to some of these places. They started out real small and unassuming, but if you're giving these bands, and it sounds like you're giving them a good sound and a good experience when they come in. I mean, they come into work. And you're not even letting them leave to go get snacks. You say, no, I got your water right here. I got your crackers right here. Go back in and get to work. My time is money, you know?
Yeah, and I try to, a lot of them, like for instance, there was a guy in my vocal booth, and I mean, it's not a far walk from the vocal booth to the refrigerator. So the guy's like, I want to take a break and I'm gonna grab a water. I was like, stay where you at. I'll bring it to you. You know what I mean? And I try to, it's just that, I see so much stuff in the different industries, whether it's the restaurant industry, the bar industry, different things where customer service lacks, and people say, well, man, I wouldn't go eat there because service, is terrible or this and this. So I try to do everything and wait on people hand and foot because so they'll say, I didn't go without anything. I said this, I wanted that. And I even have, I've even told a lot of my clients, because it's so funny because I'll go back and read some of my reviews and it's funny because one of the reviews that I remember, they're like, the studio is legit, it's great. But one thing I remember is that snack bar, man. He had everything from Twinkies to bowls of chili and chicken noodle soup, and so I try, like I said, I try to be very, very accommodating. And my wife helps with that. But like I said, it's just been a blessing. I can't believe, I never thought when I started playing music when I was 12 years old or learning guitar when I was 12, that, in a few years from now or then, that I would be full time and that music would be my living. And I've always wanted to, have that major record deal and tour arenas and do all that stuff. And it hasn't happened yet. I'm 47, so I hope I'm not getting too old, but I will still try till the day I die. But I'm living my dream. I get to it. I mean, I don't have to answer to anybody because my clients I answer to, but you know what I mean? I don't have to clock in, and I make my own schedule, and I have a very supportive wife. And, even, when I buy gear, she's like, okay, honey, if that's what you need, you know what I mean? Because it's tools for my job. If I was a mechanic, I would need the next best, check engine reader or whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm like, hey, honey, there's this piece of gear. And I've had to do some updating and stuff because with the people coming from Nashville, there's a certain gear and a clout factor that they look for. So if you don't have it, they're going to be like, oh, do you, they have these in Nashville. So even though I'm a studio, a little small studio in Cartersville, when you come to it, you're going to see gear that's in multi-million-dollar studios. They're going to be like, oh, he has this brand of stuff. He has this. And that's one thing, the clout factor stuff that helps. And like I said, with Andrew from Them Dirty Roses coming in, he's doing a lot of my mixing and mastering and stuff now. And the guys have got a phenomenal ear. So with his band coming in to track has also got me some notoriety and clout because, like I said, they a fantastic band based out of Nashville. They have a huge following. And when people say, see on their songs, hey, this is recorded and produced at the Afterdark Studio, and I even have people says, man, you're working with Them Dirty Roses, or you're working with, Jan Rico Scott, or you're doing this, and I'm like, yep. And,
but you have to flip it and reverse it. They're working with you because you're giving them the quality that they need. And you're giving them a little experience. They're getting out of Nashville. They're getting out of New York. They're getting out of California. They're coming to your little town. I imagine it's not a huge town. Is it big?
No, it's growing as everything is, but it's a very small town. I mean, when you come, and one thing that we were joking about, because my studio is literally 1 mile. We have an airport. It started out as just a small family owned airport. Where all the local doctors and lawyers kept their planes and stuff like that. But now it's turned into a full blown airport. It's called Phoenix Air. And now they fly, people all over the world and stuff like that. So, Andrew and I were talking, we're like, okay, I'm kind of in a prime spot because I'm in this little town of Cartersville. I'm only 3 hours from Nashville, but my studio is like literally less than a mile from an airport. So
Wow.
if people want to fly in, I can jump in my car and say, okay, I'll pick you up at the airport in 3 minutes. You know what I mean?
They don't need
it's
to call an Uber. You're giving them so much service. You're going to go far just for that reason. People, you're never going to be able to leave and go to Madison Square Garden because you're going to be stuck at the Afterdark Studios recording all these
cool
names.
You know, like I said, it's been my dream. I've been blessed. I can't believe how busy it's staying, and it's just and that's why, like a lot of people, when my customers come to me, you know, I want to be kind of like just, you know, waiting on them hand over foot, because it's like, you know, without them, you know, I would have a studio, and it would be my man cave, but their business is what keeps me going. And it's, you know, it's just, and I work a lot of hours and stuff like that, because I always have a motto that I don't ever want to tell a client no. If they says, hey, can you do this? Or can we do this? Or can you get this? Or can, you know, whatever. I try everything that I can to not say, no, I can't do that. You know, so when they say, hey, you know, I know we booked 8 hours, but do you think we can stay here like another 4 hours? I'll text my wife and be like, hey, babe, I'm going to be home late. And she's cool. She's like, I'll miss you, but I'll see you when we get home. Because she knows how it is. And like I said, I've just been fortunate to do that and to book shows and for the venues, even though the world's in a crisis with all this, you know, things going down. But I've built up a relationship. And when I go into a venue, a lot of bands will go into a venue, they'll play it, they'll leave. They may never come back again, or they don't know who the owner is or the manager. Me, I'm like a personal guy. So when I book a venue, I'm like, okay, are you the manager? Are you the owner? Who are you? They're like, well, I'm like, okay, when I get there, I want to meet you, because I want to develop a relationship with you, because I don't want to come play one time and then may come back in 6 months or never come back again. I want to develop a relationship where you says, man, you know, I want to call Donny and book his band, because number one, we're not going to cancel on you if we get a runny nose or a sore throat. We're going to make things happen. And like I said, and I've been in the music business now for 25 years, and I've seen and heard so much. I mean, and I had a booking company for a few years because it got so busy to where venues would call me and says, hey, can you come play? And I'm like, I don't have any more days left. There was a time about 3 years ago, I was playing 6 nights a week, and I loved it. And I was also doing my recording studio and everything, but I was like, you know, I have to have some home time. So I started a booking company to where I didn't have to tell these venues no. I could say, I'm not available, but I can send you one of my artists. So I built up a roster of about 15, 20 different artists, and had about 10 different venues that I was booking. And then, you know, I did that for a few years, to where it got to the point where people would call me last minute. Hey, I've got a runny nose, or my throat's sore, I can't do the gig tonight. And I'm like, seriously? I'm like, do you not like love to take you some Alka-Seltzer, take you some, you know, I mean, because one thing that I would do is I won't cancel a show. And I can't tell you in the last 25 years of me playing how many shows I've canceled. It's, you know, I don't even know, you know what I mean? I don't do that, you know.
Yeah, show must go on. I've had my car break down on the way to the show. I've been towed to the show, show, and then towed back to the fix-it shop the next day, you know? So, yeah,
exactly.
The show must go on. You know?
It does. And that's one thing that, like I said, that's kept me so busy over the last few years. Like, you know, like I was saying, this is March, and, you know, I have 180 shows booked, because what happens is I have, you know, 10 or 12 venues that know I'm going to show up. They know when they book me, you know, I'll be there. I'm going to give them 110%. So they'll book me like once a month for the whole year. And so when you get 10 or 12 venues that do that, you're like, man, my book's already filled. And I told my wife I wasn't going to do that this year because the studio was growing so much. I wanted to focus on the studio.
Right.
But as people started calling, I'm like, Sure. What day? You know, so right, and pencil all these dates in.
Because you love to play, man. You know.
I do, and like I said, and I keep mentioning my supportive wife. That's the big thing, because like I said, I deal with a lot of musicians that don't have that backing and stuff like that, and that helps a whole lot. So I give my wife Jennifer a big shout out for that. But like I said, I'm just thankful, man. I'm living my dream between doing the recording and, producing and being an engineer to getting to play shows and, just doing what I love to do, making music.
Well, Donny Hammonds, you got the Donny Hammonds Band. Is that a full band, or is that Donny Hammonds the solo artist, or do you have people that you work with all the time in your band?
So what I do is I do a lot of acoustic shows and stuff during the week that I do by myself, and then I have several places that I'll do a duo that I'll bring like me and my drummer. But my band, we keep the kind of the ZZ Top set up. We're a 3-piece. I play guitar and sing, and then I have a bass player, and then I have a drummer. And I did that. I mean, I've always wanted to have another guitar player, a keyboard player, but a lot of times you go in these venues and stuff, and you're like, "Where's the stage?" And they're like, over here in the corner, and you're like, "Oh, okay, you want us to fit over there?"
Yeah.
So if you have a 5-piece band, a lot of times you can't accommodate that. And also, if the venue says, "Okay, we only pay this much," I mean, the more people you got, the more you got to pay. You know what I mean? So I've built it up to where I have strong drummer and strong bass players and stuff like that can back me up, and where we sound full and sound like a bigger band and stuff like that as well. So. And I do solo stuff, duo stuff, and full band.
Yeah, but 3-piece is minimal. That's for sure. And you can do your rock and your country and your rhythm and blues and all that. And so you're playing all these different genres still, or do you stay in one?
And that's another important point that I miss as far as being, with these venues. One thing that I have worked on, and I always look at, different things of marketing and stuff like that. Some venues like country music, some like Southern rock, some like hard rock. So when I started my band, I says, okay, I need guys that like everything. We may go from playing Merle Haggard country to playing Metallica, or we may be playing a George Michael song. And so I would get with guys that says, man, if I can make money playing music, I'll play whatever you want to. You be the boss. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be the boss. I want to be the team leader. But but they knew somebody had to drive the train. You know what I mean? They're like, we're the caboose. You show us when and where to be, and we'll be there. So over the years, and I'm up to, my song catalog now is up to right at 750 songs that I can perform.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is respectable, man. A regular party band, maybe 200-300, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing. And a lot of your, what they say, bar bands might have a, 40, 50, 60 song list.
Maybe.
And, and that's all they play. It's like, it may be 3 or 4 hours of Southern rock, or, 3 or 4 hours of country. And it's like, so we play all these different places. And as I grew as a musician, I learned to read the room. So if you go into a bar and you're playing, 3 or 4 hours of Leonard Skinner, or 3 or 4 hours of, Garth Brooks or something, people's probably going to get bored and tired and be like, okay, well, we want to dance, we want to do this. So I'll read the room, and I'll play a couple of songs, and I'll know by people's gestures and their eyes, if, whether they're still sitting there or whether they're on the dance floor, of what I need to do. So, we may kick into some, KC and the Sunshine Band, or, I'll look out and see that there's young kids there, and they're, gothic kids. I'm going to kick into some Metallica and be like, show them what this old man can do. You know what I mean? Or, like I said, I do different things. I may go into a place, and it may be, middle-aged people, and I'm playing a George Strait. So I play a George Strait song, and they start tipping. I'm like, okay, guys, this is what we got to do. You know what I mean? So you, as a musician, you have to learn to read the room. You can't just say, okay, this is my set list. This is all I can do. I can't deviate from this. You have to, and that's helped me, because when a venue calls, they say, what kind of music do you play? What are my people we listen to? So what I do is I say, go to my website, look at my song list, call me back. So they call me back, or message me, email me back, and they're like, well, we looked at the song list, and there's 750 songs, but which ones do you do? And I'm like, what I do is I'll put my book out on our, we have like a little table, our little tip table. I'll put my book out there, and I'll tell people, hey, here's a book, my song book of, we were eating at this place. But so what I do is I want to engage them. So I tell the people, y'all come up, I want you to pick what songs to play, and I want you to be a part of it. So what happens is, so, they'll come up, and they say, hey, I saw you do, you're this long-haired, hippie-looking dude. I want to see you do a George Strait song. So I do a George Strait song. They're like, wow, we didn't expect that to come out of your voice or your mouth. So they bring me a tip, and they're like, well, man, can you do this? So what happens is they end up staying, and they're like, hey, waitress, bring us some, some more drinks. We're going to stay a little bit. You know what I mean? So people start staying, and
you live for that as an entertainer, as a musician. You live for that. These people were going to come in for an hour, maybe go do something else, go see a movie, but you kept them there. And I'm sure the owner,
the venues are like,
the venue,
great. We like to turn tables and stuff, and that's what I try to express to a lot of them. Okay, if you came to eat and leave and you stayed because of my music, that's awesome. But like, try to remember that.
Oh, buy some drinks.
You didn't leave for 3 hours, so this table didn't turn. You know what I mean?
No. You did. You tell them they got to buy some drinks and not just breathe the air. That's right.
Leave this waitress a good tip and stuff like that. So with the catalog, and I have people come up all the time. They're like, okay, we're going to quiz you. We want you to do a Michael Jackson song. Then we want you to do a Patsy Cline song. Then we want you to do a Matchbox 20. And then, they give me every genre that's on my list. Cause I do stuff from I looked the other day, and I have a song by a man called, what is his name? Something Mac Evans. He's an old country guy, but the oldest song I have dates back to 1954. Wow. So I have 1954, up till like today's stuff. And it's just because I play so many different places like that and different crowds. And, I don't want to tell, just like my studio, I don't want to tell people no. If they come up and says, hey, do you play country? Sure. Do you play rock? Do you play, do you know any Motown? Whatever. I mean, we do Temptations. We do the Drifters. I mean, we try to cover everything. I mean, I do everything, but the only thing I have in there is polka. You know what I mean?
Well, just like most people, you like different kinds of music. I named my online radio station RadioWhat.com. So when people go, hey, what kind of music do you play on your radio station? Yes. What? It's called what? The thing's called.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So I understand. And I like that. Now, what I was waiting for you to say was that, when they request a song, you say, I can't hear you so well. Take this magic marker and write your request on a $20 bill so I can see it.
Now I do that. So what happens is we have, we'll do that a lot of times. Hey, take your request and, write it on a $20 bill. We'll be sure to get it. Or there's a big, a big laughing thing, and it's all over, the world, but, especially in Nashville and stuff. There's several songs. There's Freebird, there's Stairway to Heaven, and now has, Brown Eyed Girl, and another one that has joined that club is Wagon Wheel.
Wagon Wheel. I was expecting the Uptown Funk. I think that one's coming in.
So when people, and you've always got that person in the crowd, hey, play Freebird. So we're like, and my thing is, okay, the first person that brings us $100, we'll play Freebird. So it's very few and far between. I remember last year we were playing in this club in Kennesaw. So this guy's like, hey, play Freebird. And I said, $100 and I'll play it. The guy brings me $100. I'm like, I look at my band and I'm like, okay, we got to play it. So there's another guy at the bar says, I'll give you $100 not to play it.
Bidding war. Bidding war.
I told my band, and so I was like, well, I'm not going to tell the guy we're not going to play. I was like, we're not going to play it if you're going to bring $100. So the other guy got mad at me. He's like, I just gave you $100 to play it. And I said, well, he just gave me $100 not to. He's like, well, I'll give you another $100 to play it. And I'm like, okay. So we ended up making $300 off of that little comedy thing right there. You know what I mean? And the bar owner's sitting there like, what just happened?
And to them, they just had a good time. They blew a couple $100.
Yeah, and see, a lot of people, and you have to learn to read people like that and do that and engage them, laugh and cut up with them. I mean, the guy didn't really get mad because I wasn't going to play it, but he gave me $100 because he wanted to hear Freebird. And then this other guy was like, what the crap? But see, a lot of people would have blown that off and put, well, he's not going to bring me $100, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this guy serious. He just said, I'll give you $100. So I'm not going to play another song until he walks up and gives me $100, or he says, oh, I don't have my $100. You know what I mean? He just said it. I'm gonna put him on the spot. I'm gonna get the $100. You know? Yeah.
No, I understand completely. Oh, funny enough, I just did a party on Saturday, and it was an 80s party. But the birthday girl who I was doing a party for, it was actually twins, twin girls. They said, "Hey, can you play this Celine Dion song from the 90s?" And I said, I guess, no problem. It's your party. I'm happy to break the format, no problem. And then I had another guy go, 80s. 80s. You know, it's the birthday girl. She wants another song. I'm not gonna be be stiff. You know, I'm gonna play what the people want. Read the crowd. Exactly like you. Very service oriented. You're gonna go far. And it's all been informed over your life, man. You were a car salesman. Me, I'm expecting that you were probably selling 50 cars a month, man, or even 40 cars a week. This guy. How were you as a car salesman?
So talking about that, one of the best comments that I ever got from my boss wasn't my boss was the musician I was talking to that was my boss, but the owner of the company come up to me one day because we were always in the car business, you got to kind of ask some jokes and a little personality and stuff like that. So I was always cutting up with people, and the owner of the company, because he was always there at the dealership as well, he came up to me one day and he's like, man, I've been in the car business for 50 years, and I've dealt with this and this. He's like, the way you work and like draw people in and stuff, he's like, it's just like amazing, because you'll have like a new person comes on the lot, you'll be friends with them in the next 5 minutes. And he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, you could sell water to a drowning man. And I'm like, I thought about it a minute. I was like, well, that's pretty good. That's a compliment that I can sell water to a drowning man. So I'm like, is that cool, or do I just like BS that much, or what?
No, that is high praise for a salesman, for sure.
Yeah. So, and I do the same thing in the music business and stuff like that. When people come up and, hey, can you play this song? And I'm like, well, the only way I'm going to play this song is if you get up and dance.
Yeah.
You got to, you know what I mean? And they kind of like, well, I don't dance or do this. But once you engage them and stuff like that, then they're like, it becomes a personality, and you come personal with them, and they're like, man, it's fun. It's just not like we're going and watching a band. You go watch Aerosmith, you pay a lot of money, whoever, a big band, you go to the show and you leave and you're like, man, it was a fantastic show, but you never got to talk to Steven Tyler. And like I said, I'm not comparing myself by a long shot to a big band, but when you go to these, smaller venues and see, local bands like us, when you engage, and because a lot of people have attitudes, a lot of people have egos, and you try to meet and talk to bands and they look at you like, I'm going backstage, I'm done with my show. And some of the places we play have a green room, and the green room, they're like, hey, we have a green room that you can go in after you do sound check. You can go back there and chill and relax. During your break, you can go back there so nobody bothers you. And I'm like, I don't need a green room, because if I take a break, I'm going to go out and mingle. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to be like, hey, get some pictures, get some, stuff like that. I want to meet people and meet fans and grow my base. I don't want to be somebody says, hey, where did the singer go? Where the guitar player? Oh, he's back in the green room. They're like, oh, we want to meet him or something. I'm not that guy. And I think if I ever have the opportunity to do anything major and, any status like that I hope and pray that I can maintain like my, humility that I know where I came from and never get too big for my shoes. You know what I mean?
No, if you want it, you're going to have it, man. You're putting it out in the universe. I don't know if you feel how you feel about energy or flow or anything like that, but you're putting it out in the universe. One of these artists that comes into your studio is going to say, hey, I'm playing in Atlanta on the big stage. You want to come with me and jam? And you say, yes, I do, Kenny Chesney.
I'm there.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I do, Blake Shelton.
And I do believe in that, the energy and the vibe and the flow and stuff like that, and divine intervention and people putting, I used to think, man, oh man, I met this guy. You can't believe who I met. And then I started thinking about, it's just not happenstance that I met this person. This is like destiny. It's been set before me, and I have to be like, okay, this is the path that's like that I'm taking. It's not, somebody knew I was going to meet this person 10 years ago, but it's all about the timing, you know, and stuff.
You've taken all these years to develop this product, this service that you provide. It might be slightly cut rate than Nashville or what have you, but that's just a town. That's like we were kids of the 80s and 90s. You buy Jordache jeans or you buy Wrangler jeans. You know, you're paying for the name. You're still going to get that great quality if you come out to Donny Hammonds at the Afterdark Studio. You're going to get that quality, and you've taken the time to learn your craft, man. And
I'm very thankful. That's like I said, we were talking about the Country Roads Records, and it started with Rick Snyder, and then all these people just started coming, and now I have clients, all over different parts of Canada, Nova Scotia, the UK, Australia. I mean, all these people that just send me all this stuff through Facebook Messenger or emails. They're like, hey, here's my song, I want you to do it. And I have never been behind in my studio up until like the last year. And I'm like, man, I'm working so much to try to keep it because of the volume and because of the rates and stuff like that. And I'm giving them the quality that they want. And I don't have a whole lot of time to work on my stuff. I put it on the back burner and work on it when I can and get my paying clients. But working with people, like Tony and stuff like that, write stuff as I do their songs, and people send me demos to do. They're like, hey, can you produce my song? But I want you to sing the demo or sing the song. And I'm like, okay, great. When it's done, if I like it, then I'll put that out as a single. And there's me a new song that I have out, that I got paid to work on, during their time, you know what I mean? Instead of having to take time to do my stuff. And I'm thankful for all the radio stations that have played my music. I got a notification. I got an email. It was last year. I co-wrote a song with a lady in Tennessee, and she's like, hey, I want this next song to be like, the next Margaritaville. And I'm like, okay. I like Margaritaville, but it's one of those songs I've been playing for 25 years. I'm like, okay, but and I was like, okay, I'm really not going to have to put like any thought or effort into. I mean, I always do, not saying I didn't put any thought or effort, but a lot of songs I have to learn, guitar melodies, but I'm like, okay, Margaritaville, I've just got to do a fun, upbeat song, add some percussion, some congas, make it kind of beachy feel. Mm-hmm. I can do that. Anyway, so we write the song, release it, put it on all the digital platforms. Probably about 5 months later, she's messaged me and says, hey, I've got the song playing. It's playing in Germany. It's playing in Europe. It's playing all over. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, good luck. Maybe it'll do something. So I get an email, and then this guy's name is Email, like email, E-M-I-L, like email Franz from Germany. And he says, hey, Sherry sent me the song that you co-wrote with her and produced, and it's really big over here in Germany, and people really like it. And I said, well, thanks, man. That's cool. I'm glad you're spinning it. And he says, well, but you don't understand. He said, people really like it. He says, you broke a world record on German radio. And I'm like, how? I'm like, we just sent the song. It was a song called The Tequila Way.
Yeah.
And it's just talking about, when your days go bad, have a shot of tequila. It's the tequila way. Just a little fun and, song. And I was like, well, how did I break a world record? He said, well, that's what I was calling or emailing you to let you know, is that your single went #1 here in Germany. And I'm like, well, how? Because I haven't even been promoting it. I haven't been, I hadn't done anything. He says, well, they sent it to me, and I have. And he said, so it went #1, and it was in Trier, Germany, Trier, Trier, Germany. He said, it went #1 here. And I said, well, what broke the world record? He said, well, the only, not just a German artist, what he said, but because they do international stuff. He said, the last male artist that had a single that went #1 was on our countdown for 6 weeks. It stayed #1 for 6 weeks. And he said, the way you broke that is, he said, your song stayed #1 8 weeks. And I'm like, wow, that's good. I was like, now if it had been in the States, dude, I would I'd been probably on Costa Rica somewhere on the beach. You know what I mean?
No, you know what's funny? Over the years, I find that if you mention the word DJ, it's that your song is more likely to get airplay. If you mention any kind of drinks in the song, it's probably going to get a lot of play in the clubs and the bars. You know, hey, we're going to tequila. Yeah, everybody take a shot every time you hear the word tequila. You're going to sell some drinks. See, that's the whole thing. We're back to selling drinks.
Yeah, exactly. So that was great news, and I'm like, man, I just, it didn't take me a lot of time. Some songs it may take me 8, 10, 12 hours to produce. Sometimes it may take 2 hours. I don't have a set limit. I have a lot of people that come in and says, how long does it take to do a song? It depends on what you do to it. Yeah. And that song was came very quick. And I'm like, well, man, I could crank songs like that out all day long. You know what I mean? And it just is sometimes simple as the way to go. It was, but that was very rewarding and stuff like that. And they, we had talked about, doing some stuff over there, and he's like, well, if you're ever in the area, and I'm like, well, I'm never just going to pop up in Germany. He's like, but if you ever consider doing a tour or something, let me know, and I could set things up. And I didn't put a lot of thought into that with the way everything in the world is going with travel and stuff like that, but I still keep in contact with him, and he still spends it and stuff like that. But like I said, you never know how things are going to happen. I was like, man, that's fantastic.
Don't be surprised. Just, you know the way that you are with people, and that if you say something, you're going to give your word, and you're going to give them more than they expect. If I show up to a party, they're not just going to get a DJ with a couple of speakers, maybe a laptop. No, they got turntables, they got lights, they got microphones if they want to sing along with you, karaoke, whatever you want. You're going to give them more. When you go to a Donny Hammonds show, you're not just getting, 40, 50 songs. You're getting your choice of 700 songs that are. And
the same thing, as you were saying, I mean, we bring a full production light show. I mean, we tried, some of these venues we play are small. But I'll go in there like I'm, I don't know, Aerosmith or something. I'll set up a huge PA, stuff like that, and I'll go to the extent, and it's like, wow, this is like a rock and roll show, man. Yeah. And I give my all, whether it's going to be 50 people, and that's another compliment I got from several people over the years that have told me. They're like, man, you pour your heart out and you play. If there's 5 people here, you'll leave sweating. If there's 500 people here, you play the same way. And that's made me feel good, because it's, it lets them see that I'm passionate about it.
You are so far ahead of the game. Donny Hammond, you've been doing it since 19. You had a house. You know how far ahead of the game you are when you have your property, your place to live, your house, and then you build your studio and you start to build your dream. At 19, you're already head in that direction.
For that, because I told my mom, like I said, when I graduated high school, I mean, I had a vision. I said, like, I don't want to rent and like throw away money. I want to get a job and just like be a man, like quick, Yeah. And I remember November the 10th of 1994. I graduated school I graduated in 1994, and then I was 18, and then graduated in May of 94, and on November the 10th of 1995, I picked out my land and started building my house.
That is fantastic. And I mean,
that's like, I was, people couldn't believe it. My mom couldn't even believe it. She was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, because I told her, when I did, I said, hey, Mom, I picked out a land. They're going to start building the house, and I picked out my floor plan and everything. She's like, how are you going to pay for this? And I'm like, I've already got approved for the loan.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and you're working the cars, you're working, your gigs at night, you're starting to build that up. Yeah. Donny Hammonds, I already like you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I already like your personality. I like your energy that even flowing on this internet thing that we got going on here. And the flow when you go to a club. You told the guy, hey, if I play this song, you got to dance, because you're going to get that energy from him. You're going to get that feeling. It's going to build the crowd, and it's going to make you want to play. Even if you're tired after a long day of recording in the studio, and it's like, oh man, maybe I don't want to do that gig. Well, you're going to be on pure adrenaline, and a lot of times, there's Fridays that I'll stay up from 5 in the morning all the way till 5 in the morning. On Saturday morning, I'm rolling out of the club. It's just like,
and it's about the energy and the adrenaline. And like I said, there's times that I may do 2 gigs a day. I mean, on Valentine's Day, for instance, and this how supportive my wife is. On Valentine's Day, I did 3 gigs, 3 different Halloween parties. And so I wasn't able, I was hoping I could be able to take her to lunch or something, but she understood, I've got to do these gigs. So I started out at 8:30 in the morning, driving all over different parts of Georgia to get to gigs, because they were in 3 different cities. So I would drive, play like hour and a half gigs. They were like small Valentine parties. So might be 2 hours a piece, but I'd have to drive, 45 minutes or an hour and a half to get to the next gig. So I would leave my house at 8 a.m. and get home at, around 6 that afternoon. And then we had Valentine's dinner. But like I said, she was just so supportive. But that's just how passionate I am, because these places would call and say, "Are you booked for Valentine's Day?" And I'm like, "Yeah," but I'm like, "But what time?" And these places says, "Hey, we want you to come do our Valentine's party because your music, your selection is going to cater to the people, because we know we're going to get a bunch of things." So I was able to fit it in, and thankfully the venues and stuff worked with me, that I was able to fit 3 gigs in one day and make them happy, and they got to do their Valentine parties for their guests and customers, and it worked out great. And like I said, I hustle and grind. Like I said, it's my living, but it's my passion, and my wife understands that. And just to be able to fathom that, I'm like, man, I'm making a living. I'm paying my mortgage like doing music. It's like, it's a great feeling for me. I feel successful and accomplished already. If I never make the big arenas, which, God, I'd love to play in front of 30,000 people. That
it's in the universe. It's in the universe. Put it in the universe. It's out there. No, you say how supportive your wife is. You're building a life together. She knows who she married, and
exactly.
as long as on Valentine's Day you gave her a bouquet of greenbacks. Here, honey, this is what I got for you.
Candy and everything. I went all out. I was like, you've been waiting on me all day. But like I said, sometimes I just sit back and I'm like, I'm doing this. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's happening. And to me, I look at different, you'll read books, or you'll read different scenarios or memes or whatever people post on Facebook. And I see different things about what people call levels of success. One person may think, okay, well, Donny's cool, but he hasn't made it because he's not opening up for Aerosmith. He's not opening up for, Garth Brooks. But then again, I'm like, okay, I'm successful because, this person, they may have to get up and go work in a hot carpet mill or whatever from 9 to 5, punch a time clock. They absolutely hate their job. They're like, oh my God. Me, when I get up in the mornings, I'm like, dude, I got to go to the studio. Yeah. I'm going to go through McDonald's. I'm going to grab me a McGriddle or grab me a biscuit, and my sweet tea, and I'm going to be on my way.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I'll be at the studio 8-10 hours a day. And, I'll leave the studio and I'm like, man, I've got to run home. I've got 30 minutes because I've got to run home and shower because I got to be at a gig in an hour.
Yeah.
It's like, and people think, well, man, he plays music for a living. That must be great. It's fun. And they don't realize that, like I probably do, 50 to 60 hours, like with, in my studio and with gigs, with setup and, playing the gigs and driving. I probably do. Or I know I do easily 50 to 60 hours a week, doing that stuff.
Well, that's hard work, man. And I see you looking off to the distance. That very understanding wife is probably out there saying, "You're going to be done soon, because let's land this plane."
That's actually her.
Yep. Let's land this plane. Let's get you back to that lady.
You know what she just did?
What she did?
She just brought me a drink. She's like, because she's been up there cooking. Because I came downstairs because we got dogs and stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna go downstairs where it's quiet. So she's like, okay, while you do the interview, I'm gonna cook. So I've been down here, and she just, because she knows how I am, because she's like, you'll be a while. So she just brought me a drink.
Well, so, I mean, I know it's my job to be mindful of people's time. This hour just floated by, and we didn't even get into your childhood or any of that where you grew up and all that kind of thing and how your mom and dad were. We'll leave that one for part 2.
Okay, because I've got a great story on where I grew up and where my studio is located.
Well, if you want to go ahead and do all that,
Okay.
let's go ahead and start to land this plane. Give shout outs to the people. Let people know how to get a hold of you, and then we'll do the last words.
Like I said, I'm 47. So the house that my studio is in now is the house that my parents built back in, I'd say probably in the early 70s, that I lived in up until when I was about 5 years old.
Cool.
So, and we were talking one day because, like I said, you know, my parents got a divorce, and then when my mom got remarried, the house that is now my studio, she remarried and moved away, and that house just sat there from, you know, 1980. I've been up there. I moved in it, remodeled it. I'd say probably 13, 14 years ago. But anyway, so from, you know, around, you know, late 70s, early 80s up until 13 years ago, it just sat there. So, you know, it needed a bunch of remodeling and stuff like that. And we were talking one day because I said I was able to move into a little storefront building, you know, when I moved out of my house to get a studio. And we were talking one day, and she was like, well, I wish you could use that house for your studio. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, you know, I was going to give it to you like in my will or whatever anyway. And I was like, I wish you had told me about 5 years ago, because I've been paying $500 a month for this little storefront building that's not, that I have nothing to show for because it's not mine. You know what I mean? And so she's like, well, you know, here's the keys, here's the deed. And so I went in there and just started remodeling it and got it up to par. And then over the past, like I said, 14 years, I've just been remodeling and doing stuff like that. So not only is that a recording studio, but that's the house that I lived in as a child. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow, this, you know, I never, you know, she never thought back in 1970 when they built that house, okay, 70, 80, 90, 2000, what, 40, 45 years later, 40 years later, this is going to be my son's business and how he makes his living.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, wow.
You just don't know where you're going to end up. And that's man, that is beautiful. What a great story. And you have to be getting the good energy from your parents, from, you know, your childhood. That's got to flow through you, man. I don't know if I even believe in all that stuff, but I think it is. It's a part of you. The particles in that space have got to be helping you.
Where my studio is where my family grew up. Like, you know, before my grandmother passed, the house that she lived in is right beside my studio. I had an uncle that passed away that was also a musician. His house was right beside my grandmother's. Everything was right there on this piece of land. Was our whole family estate, I guess, from like the 60s and up. And it's like, now I'm here doing business, and it's, you know, it's wild. So. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to keep you. I don't know what your time frame is, but man, I could just talk and talk and talk, and I have so much to, you know, say about it, and just thankful for all my clients. And like I said, I've named a few here and there, but I mean, I'm thankful for every one of them. So if you've ever recorded at the Afterdark Studio, I thank you. And like I said, I don't want to miss any names, but I thank every one of you, and they know how appreciative and how thankful I am for them all.
Well, I definitely don't want this to be the last time that we talk. As things progress, if you got more stuff coming out, or when you do book that Madison Square Garden arena, I want you to come back before, you know, and just from, you know, the little people, you know, just don't forget the little people down here.
Most definitely.
But I usually finish these things off with last words for the people. It could be words to live by, something you heard a long time ago, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Donny Hammonds, give the last words for the people.
So I do want to say to a lot of people, I haven't even mentioned where to find me. If you go to my website's thedonnyhammondsband.com, DONNYHAMMONDS. But I do want to tell people, just be persistent and consistent, both, because there's a difference. And I see different people that I work with, different artists from young to old, that give up or get discouraged and stuff like that. And you know, the Nike slogan, you know, just do it. Like I said, if you feel like I've been doing this now for 25 years, and you know, like I said, I mentioned before, I haven't made the big time, but I'm doing what I love to do because I've been persistent at it. Consistency is the key, because, like, you know, if you're making biscuits or something and you don't get the consistency right, those biscuits aren't going to be any good. You know what I mean? You're going to be like, it's either going to be hard as a rock or slow. You know what I mean? So if you just work, and practice and get that consistency and you bite into that biscuit, you're like, man, this is like grandma's right here. You know what I'm saying? So whatever it comes, if you feel like you can't book shows or people doesn't, you know, people tell me all the time, trying to be brief. Well, you know, I have artists and stuff. Well, no venues called me to book some shows. I can't get up, you know, nobody. I'm like, dude, they're never going to call you. I spend hours on the phone emailing. I had venues that call me or message me, says, look, we've got your emails over the last 6 months. Stop messaging us. You know what I mean? And I'm like, so I'll wait about 3 or 4 months and I'll be like, hey, it's me again. You know? And either they just tell me to get lost, or they'll finally say, okay, we're going to book you so you'll shut up. So, and for instance, I had that happen. They're like, okay, we're going to book you so you'll leave us alone. I booked a show at this venue. I'd say it's been 5 years ago. Now I am that venue's most booked artist. They're like, oh my God, we should have. And I said, yes, you should have, you know? And they're like, we didn't realize because we didn't know who you were. We didn't know if you would bring a crowd, blah, 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 this. We didn't understand basically what you gave. And we just thought you were another guy. And they're like, now we want to book you often. And then, so I get to turn around and say, well, you know, I'm playing today, but the next time I can come, it's going to be about 6 months. 6 months from now, they're like, oh no, we need you like, you know, next month because our guests love you. And I'm like, I've been trying to tell you that, you know what I mean? But my persistency and because, you know, paid off, I kept bugging them. But I just tell people, be dedicated to your craft. I mean, it's easy to get discouraged, but one thing, do not be, I don't say that word, you know, don't be a pain in somebody's butt as far as having an ego or any kind of attitudes and stuff like that. Realize that as quick as you go up the ladder, you can come down. You know what I mean? I don't care. Like I said, you may do gigs for a year and then you get that call and, hey man, you're going to be playing in front of 50,000 people. Don't ever lose sight or vision of like, you're a human being. You're not better than anybody else. And just like, I don't want to say don't be a douchebag, but don't be, you know, just, it's like, don't be that guy that when you see people, don't be that star that I've met stars and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to meet this guy. And then I meet them and they're that guy. And I'm like, really? You just broke my heart because like I had you put on this pedestal and you just like crushed all that. So now I'm going to go home and burn your records because you're just a jerk. You know, don't be that guy. Be humble and kind and just positive. I know this world doesn't seem positive. It's not positive, but you see the people out there that are jerks and stuff like that. Don't be that guy. Just try to bite your tongue, positive, love. We talk about energy and good vibes. Whatever you got to do, be that guy. And people is going to come to you and say, this guy's world's falling apart, but he's like, got the smile of like one of these emojis we see. Hey, try not to let people know. You know, I don't know. You don't, I don't know. That's kind of a different thing I'm getting off to, but I just try to be that shining light, to everybody. So just be a good person. Love. You know, that's all I got to say about that. Just love people. Be a good person.
Oh my goodness. What a nice guy. Donny Hammonds, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause, everybody. Oh, what? I didn't know him beforehand, but I feel like he's my pal, my buddy, my friend. He said it all the way through. Once he starts working with you, and if he likes you, he's definitely going to become your friend. You still got to pay him, all right? Still got to make a living. Still got to pay for that house, Still got to take care of that wife. But, man, he is making a living. You say you're not rich, Donny Hammonds. You're making a living doing what you love. You may not have millions and millions and millions of dollars, but you got love. You got a place to live. I think you're a rich man, Donny Hammonds. And I think you gave the people gems on how to follow their dreams, their path. And if you can get it as early as Donny Hammond did at 19, he already knew, you know what? I like this music business. I like playing guitar. I think I'm going to play guitar for the people. And while I'm at it, I'll record myself playing guitar for the people. And while I'm at it, I'll record other people playing their music for the people. You know, it just built from there. I love it. I love it. Thanks for telling your story, or at least a part of your story. My goodness, I know we could have gone for hours and hours, but I'm glad that we had this time. And if you want to come back, you come on back and tell any other stories. That was fantastic. I didn't even have to hardly ask any questions. That man has stories to tell. I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you so much, Donny Hammonds, for being on the What Makes You Famous podcast. Now, if you, yes, you, I'm turning my attention to you, my loyal listener. If you would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email keysdan@aol.com. That's it for me. It's keysdan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.